Who's that supposed to be? Gina the Crocodile? I asked, nodding at the bug-eyed green monster. He was muscular, with a huge toothy maw, wearing a yellow tank top and no pants. Doubt it, Mikhail replied. They're all Americans. Besides the crocodile, there were two more huge puppets on the small stage, a blue gorilla with a broken arm, rusty metal rods and wires stuck out from its shoulder, and a purple bird with its beak wide open, as if in a silent scream. They were all made of metal and covered in colorful paint. They looked like life-size toys for kids, but they were creepy as hell. There was a chill coming off them. Ball-shaped eyes, gaping mouths, teeth. It felt like they could switch on and start moving at any moment. I could almost feel their eyes on me, so I turned away to check out other parts of the old kids' cafe. Everything was spotless, not a speck of dust on the tables. Napkin holders, cushy chairs, walls painted with colorful stars. In the corner stood a Pac-Man arcade machine with a flickering screen. I suddenly wanted to drop in a coin and, just like when I was a kid, chase that yellow ball through the mazes. I remember I had that game on my old Dendy console. Shift Supervisor Mikhail let me look around on my own and silently waited for my questions. But my attention was once again drawn to those three two-legged creatures on the little stage, a green crocodile, a purple bird, and a blue gorilla. I've never seen characters like these anywhere, I said. No wonder, Mikhail replied. They're not cartoon characters. They're their own thing. I call them Chitzik, Kong, and Dalboyisher. Everything here was built for them, he said. Are they some kind of robots? I asked. Yeah. They're animatronics, or whatever they're called. Who cares? The shift supervisor waved his hand dismissively. Anyway, the thing is, back in the 80s in America, kids' cafes with animals like these were really popular. Saved money on live workers in costumes. Get it? Kids would eat, and these guys would talk, sing songs. Basically, entertain everyone. So, the owner of this place used to ship goods from the US in the 90s. Huh. That word still cracks me up, Asashi. You know where that comes from? I shrugged and shook my head. Forget it, Mikhail waved me off again. Here's the deal. The owner used to ship cargo from the States, and at some point he met the owner of a bankrupt pizzeria. That guy was selling his animatronics for cheap. Americans had already seen enough of those robots, so they weren't interested anymore. But our businessmen thought, people in Russia have never seen anything like this. It'll be a novelty for them. So he bought all those characters in bulk. And he got an arcade machine thrown in, too. By the way, it still works. You can play if you want. The boss nodded toward the Pac-Man machine. So what? Did the business work out? I asked, curious. Mikhail shook his head. Nope. The owner opened the cafe, set everything up here, handed out flyers all over town. There were ads on the local TV channel and all that. The Merry Friends Cafe invites you to visit. Do you remember how they used to run that? Or are you not from around here? There were a lot of people at the opening, but overall, people just didn't come. The kids weren't really into the puppets. They thought they were scary. And they didn't even sing in our language. Nobody could understand anything. The place just worked like a regular cafe. And those dummies weren't even turned on, so the cafe isn't working at all now? I asked. Not at the moment, the shift manager replied. But the owner still hasn't given up on his idea and wants to restart everything, buy more old arcade machines, make it all retro style. Who knows, maybe it'll work out. Would you come to a place like that? I'm not sure. Those dolls are kind of creepy, I said, not taking my eyes off the animals. Did they move and talk? Yeah, Mikhail nodded. Something like that. They've got metal skeletons inside, wires, you know, microchips. Got it, I said, deciding not to ask any more about them. All right, let's get down to business. Mikhail led me to the door at the end of the hall. There was a tiny room, a chair, and a table with a monitor split into 4 colored images. The top 2 showed the scene with the robots and the cafe hall, the bottom 2, the front and backyards. The shift supervisor pulled the chair away from the table and said, "It's not a tough job. You just sit here in the control room and watch the cameras. If someone tries to break in, and it happens, you go out and deal with it. Usually it's teenagers messing around, trying to sneak in and see what's here. After all, it's a legendary place. Kids tell all sorts of stories about it. Basically, your job is to chase off the little troublemakers. Work your night shift, then go home. If you have any questions, call me. Even at night, call me. I'm always available." "All right, deal," I nodded. "You're the first one I actually trust," Mikhail smiled. "There were guys working here before who couldn't even last 2 shifts. I hope things will be calm with you. You've worked security before, right?" "Yeah, oh, I've worked all sorts of jobs," I said. "Then that's it. Have a good shift. I'll drop by in the morning to check how things are going." Mikhail tugged at his cap like it was a hat and walked out of the control room. As soon as the door slammed shut, I grabbed the kettle, coffee cubes, water, I guess, I could get from the restroom. Every step echoed through the empty hall. As I walked, I could feel on my skin like someone was watching me. It felt like those animal figures were following me with their eyes. And it wasn't entirely a false feeling. Suddenly, the crocodile's eyes jerked with a creak. Well, that kind of thing happens with moving parts. After filling up the water, I went back to the control room and sank into the chair in front of the monitor. The images on it were static, like a photograph. Robot animals, the hall, the front yard, the backyard. Nothing was moving anywhere. The kettle soon started to hum, then boiled and switched off. I reached for my mug, and a sudden phone call made me jump. Someone was calling the work phone. "Hello," I said. Security, hi," came an unfamiliar voice on the line. "Did they warn you that they walk around at night?" "I don't understand." "Who walks around?" I asked, frowning. "Who?" "The robots. They walk around at night," the strange voice replied. "Did you lock your door?" "Who am I talking to?" I asked, feeling a chill in my stomach. "Lock the door," they said on the other end of the line. "If you want to make it till morning." The call was cut off. Idiot. I swore, thinking it was just someone's stupid joke. Some punks must have gotten hold of the number and are trying to scare the new security guard. Very funny. And yet, I glanced at the slightly open door. Maybe I really should lock it. My right eye caught movement on one of the cameras. The RoboBird had moved from its spot. Unbelievable, but true. It climbed down from the stage as if stepping down the stairs. Its metal legs clanged against the floor. A dull metallic sound echoed in my chest as if it was my own heart pounding. What a sudden nightmare. I jumped up from my chair, looked out the door, and shouted, "Hey, you blockhead, get back to your place." But the doll didn't stop. Now I saw it with my own eyes. In the dim light of the hall, the iron bird looked like a real monster. It was coming toward me. Its ball-shaped eyes dangled about wildly. Its beak snapped open and shut sharply. Heavy legs pounded on the tiled floor. Terror made me hide. Without thinking, I locked myself in my little room and snapped the lock on the handle. My throat throbbed with fear. I backed up and pressed my back against the wall, listening to the robot's footsteps coming closer. Alone, locked in a small, stuffy room, the giant wind-up toy scared me half to death. I stared at the monitor. The bird came right up to the door, then leaned back, raising its beak to strike. And in the next second, the door shuddered. The wooden panel wasn't particularly sturdy. The next blow was even stronger. "Get out of here." I yelled. I had nothing to protect myself from this mechanical beast. Suddenly, the bird froze. I stared at the screen. Its beak twitched as if it was trying to say something. And suddenly, a lively children's tune started playing. And then, from the crackling speakers, a friendly toy voice rang out, "You're my very best friend, above all praise. We'll never be bored together. Come on down into my basement." At the end of the verse, the little voice shifted from disco cheerful to a deep, rumbling bass. The last words were drawn out, low and creepy. And suddenly it hit me. The shift supervisor had said these dolls were American and all their songs should be in English. But this was in Russian. Something doesn't add up. That sudden realization helped me calm down a bit. Fear gave way to anger. Is this some kind of prank? I shouted into the empty room, "I'll sue you all." And the mechanical creature, as if frightened by my threat, turned around and started walking back to the stage. I watched it on the cameras. It slowly and awkwardly returned to its place and froze in its previous pose. It was quiet again. This is a prank. Did some pranksters decide to mess with me? Then they won't get away from me without a hefty cash prize. It was as if Mikhail was deliberately ignoring my calls. I spent the whole night in my little closet, never taking my eyes off the monitors, and by morning I dozed off a bit, my head resting on the table. A sudden knock at the door jolted me out of my half-sleep. I jerked awake, lifting my head sharply and staring into the camera. Standing in the doorway was a short, chubby man, Mikhail, the shift supervisor. I got up and let him in. "Good morning," he exclaimed. "So, how did it go?" In that very moment, anger washed over me. How did it go? I shouted, "Are you kidding me? Is something wrong?" Mikhail asked in surprise, glancing around. "You didn't tell me that animals come around and bang on the door at night. That's what's wrong." I was beside myself with rage. What? Mikhail was clearly confused. I explained. Someone called me on the work phone and said that robots walk around at night and it's better to keep the door closed. I thought it was a joke, at first. But then that little bird over there started knocking on my door. "Why are you all looking at me like that? You do realize those dolls can't walk, right?" the boss said slowly, as if choosing his words. "They can't move at all. They're made to dance in place, blink their eyes, and open their mouths. They run on wires and aren't even connected to the power," he said. Let's check the security camera footage, I suggested. They don't record, Mikhail replied with a shrug. Well, that's just great, I blurted out. So, I'm crazy then. Just pay me for my shift and that's it, I'm done. Mikhail started waving his hands, trying to calm me down. Wait, calm down. This is all really weird, but I believe you. Okay, I believe you, sort of. I haven't been working here long myself, and this really is a very strange place. There's a constant staff turnover here. Shift supervisors change every 3 months, and security guards don't stick around at all. I've gotten calls at night, people saying weird things. The robots stare at them. The robots sing. Some of these guys would work 1 or 2 shifts and then run off, and some would just disappear right in the middle of the night. How am I supposed to know what's going on here? Maybe there really are animals wandering around. Don't get worked up. I'm just a hired worker like you. So what now? I asked, feeling a bit calmer. I'll have to look for another security guard again. I'm honestly so fed up with this, Mikhail admitted. Interviews, briefings. Come in for your shift tonight, will you? We'll figure out what's going on here together. If you see anything strange, call me right away and I'll come over. I already tried calling you last night. Check your missed calls, I said. Sorry, I was out cold, but this time there won't be any slip-ups. You call, I come, and we'll sort everything out together. Will you come? The man asked hopefully. I'll think about it, I replied, tossing my cap onto the table. I'm glad you came, Mikhail said as I stepped over the threshold of the Jolly Friends Cafe. During the day, I got some sleep, calmed down a bit, and realized I was actually curious about what was going on in this strange place. Plus, I was desperate for money. Just don't turn off your phone, I asked Mikhail before entering the control room. Of course not. He laughed. I'll be waiting for your call. Password code red. All right, good luck to you. He swung open the door to the little room for me and left. I was left alone with the monitor. I sat locked in the room, staring at the screen where the robots stood motionless, a crocodile, a bird, a gorilla. How terrifying they looked in that dim light. Several hours passed like that. Nothing was happening. Then my bladder started acting up. I tried to hold it, but I couldn't do it all night. And I couldn't exactly use the kettle, after all. I decided to quickly run to the bathroom and come back. The robots were standing there, not moving. Maybe tonight isn't the night when toys come to life. I left the closet, glanced at the mechanical freaks, and ran to the restroom. Silence. No clanking or any other sounds. Everything was calm. Finally, some relief. But when I came back to the hall, the robots weren't in their places. The bird was blocking the doors leading outside. The gorilla stood frozen at the edge of the stage, stretching out its massive arm. And the crocodile was nowhere to be seen. It had just vanished. I froze in terror. So, they can move around silently. My gaze slid over to the dark doorway that led to the control room. Run over there, lock myself in, hide. But what if that dumb lizard is waiting for me in there? With these thoughts, I stood frozen, too scared to move. And suddenly, something crackled behind me. I turned around. It was the crocodile. The whole time, it had been hiding behind the open bathroom door. It opened its huge jaws, revealing blunt metal teeth, and lunged at me, trying to grab my shoulder. I bolted for the control room as fast as I could. The other mechanical monsters sprang into action instantly. The bird flapped its wing arms, the gorilla thundered on its short legs, and the crocodile was already chasing after me. The cafe shook from their footsteps. I dashed into the little room and, without wasting a second, slammed the door shut, pressing my back against it, feeling it shudder from the blows outside. I was locked in that tiny room again. What should I do? I grabbed the phone from the table and dialed the shift supervisor's number. "Hello," came his sleepy voice. "Mikhail." Code red. I shouted, trying to be heard over the growing rumble. "Huh? What's going on over there?" the man asked. "Get over here." "No." I yelled. "All right, I'm coming. Mikhail hung up the phone. A choppy, distorted melody was playing in the cafe hall. It was torture for the ears. The robo-animals spun in a frenzied mechanical dance, threatening to destroy everything around them. But despite their clumsiness, they didn't touch a single table. I realized that if these monsters wanted to, they could have broken down the storeroom door long ago. But they didn't do that. Did that mean the game had rules? I was hiding in a little house where the monsters weren't allowed. Suddenly, the music and the racket stopped. I looked at the monitor. The mechanical beasts were back on stage, each in their own spot and in their previous poses, as if nothing had happened. Aren't they quick? The security camera showed someone approaching the front doors, taking a key out of their pocket and unlocking the door. Mikhail had arrived. "Boria, where are you?" He shouted as he entered the cafe hall. "I'm here," I replied. "Everything's fine here. Come out. Why are you panicking?" His voice sounded almost mocking. He walked up to the control room door and knocked. I took a deep breath and unlocked the door. Mikhail was standing in front of me, and behind him loomed a blue gorilla, its mouth stupidly agape and its eyes rolling around. "So why did you call me over?" The boss asked, not noticing anything. "Mikhail." That was all I could manage to say. I just pointed over his shoulder. The man turned around. At that very moment, a huge iron fist crashed down on his head. I saw the skin on his neck split open, and his vertebrae popped out. Blood splattered onto my face. Probably, Mikhail didn't feel any pain because of the shock. He just spun around in place, his eyes staring blankly, mumbling, "Huh? Did the power go out or something? It's dark." Blood was streaming down his face. "Boria, you." He didn't finish the sentence before he dropped dead. The iron creature lowered its mechanical eyes onto the lifeless body, then looked at me. I instantly slammed the door shut. It really happened. The machine killed a man. I heard a rustling and heavy footsteps behind the door. The camera showed a blue gorilla dragging the corpse by the legs, smearing blood across the tiled floor. Then a purple bird came out of the bathroom carrying a bucket and a mop. The green dumb lizard opened the door to the basement so the gorilla could drag the body inside. I couldn't watch this horror any longer and squeezed my eyes shut. Only the sounds remained, the thud of the body on the stairs, the squeak of the mop washing away the blood. Then silence fell again. I opened my eyes. The cafe hall was sparkling clean. The robo-animals stood motionless on the stage, each in their place, as if nothing had happened. But the terrible death of Mikhail kept replaying in my head like a broken record. I only dared to leave the closet and exit the cafe in the morning. A faint hope lingered in me that the time of these monsters was over. But still, I looked around nervously as I walked to the exit. The mechanical creatures, as if saying goodbye, stared at me with their motionless, cheerful faces. And outside, in the cafe yard, I was met by a stooped little man with a combed-over bald head. He smiled kindly and said, "Hello. Who are you?" I asked. "Victor, I was the one who called you back then," the stranger said. "Remember?" "So what now?" I asked, feeling only horror and emptiness. "Let's get out of here. Come on, come on." The man beckoned me toward his car. "I'll treat you to breakfast." Victor and I were sitting in some run-of-the-mill diner. They brought us sandwiches, 2 servings of fried eggs, and coffee. "There you go, help yourself, it's on me," said the balding man. But I couldn't swallow a single bite. I felt shattered and empty inside. Mikhail is dead. They killed him and dragged him into the basement. We need to call the police. No need for the police. Victor took a big bite of his sandwich and kept talking with his mouth full. No one will do anything about it. Robots don't go to jail. But the cafe owner probably should. Does he know? I asked. Of course he does, the man snorted. He brought this curse from overseas. At first, he didn't suspect anything, but then he realized who he'd brought here. He's their master and gets something from them. Maybe they grant his wishes, but they demand sacrifices too. That's why all this mess with the security guards is happening. I used to work there as a shift supervisor. A lot of people disappeared while I was there. If I'd known they weren't just running away but dying, I would have quit right away. Their bodies are rotting in the basement. Damn. And there's nothing that can be done. I picked up my mug and took a sip of coffee. What could you do? Victor pushed a plate with a sandwich toward me. The boss is a serious guy. You can't get to someone like that. Now you're just one more person who knows the awful truth. Be glad you're still alive. Go home and forget about it. And he was right. There was nothing else left for me to do. Only, I can never erase that horror from my memory now.